I got a 99 in French 10th boards, and learning the right conjugations is one of the ways I achieved it. Salut mes little baguettes, welcome to l'Académie Équilibre, and today I'm sharing the top 15 verbs that frequently appear in sample papers, assignment and previous year question papers, and we'll be conjugating them in present tense, passé composé and futur simple, which is our holy trinity of verbs in French. So buckle up for the notebook and let's get to it. Alright, so the first verb that we have is an exception almost everywhere, that is être, to be. This is an extremely important verb because the conjugation that we have in present is also used in passé composé, because we know être is one of the helping verbs in the past tense. So the present serves as a base for the past. So with je, it is je suis, tu es, il, elle est, nous sommes, vous êtes, and finally, ils, elles sont. Now, if I were to conjugate in passé composé, être is conjugated with avoir. Alright, so it becomes été. The past participle is été. So it's written something like this: j'ai été, or tu as été. You get the gist of it, right? Then in future simple, it is je serai, tu seras, il, elle sera, nous serons, vous serez, and with they, that is il, elle pluriel, we write seront. Next in line is avoir, that is to have. Again, an extremely important conjugation to memorize because avoir in present tense, it will be the base for passé composé as a helping verb. So you have j'ai, tu as, il, elle a, nous avons, vous avez, and last one, ils, elles ont. Now for passé composé, the past participle of avoir is you, eu. So again we write it something like that because it is done with avoir as a helping verb. So it becomes j'ai eu, or tu as eu. So same thing, just add eu after it, that becomes I had instead of I have. Now for future simple, our stem is AUR. Okay, so it is j'aurai, tu auras, il, elle aura. So avoir has a lot of aura, obviously. I couldn't help myself, lame joke. Then with nous aurons, vous aurez, ils, elles auront. Now next one that I've seen quite frequently is mettre, to put. So again, the conjugation is an exception. So we write it something like that. Je mets, tu mets, il, elle met. Now till here we had a single T. With nous and vous, it gets double T. So nous mettons, vous mettez, and il, elle met. Then in passé composé, your past participle is me, M-I-S. So with avoir as your helping verb, we get j'ai mis, tu as mis, and so on. Then in future simple, we also do it with double T. So we get je mettrai, tu mettras, il, elle mettra, nous mettrons, vous mettrez, ils, elles mettront. Then you've got mourir. Again, extremely important. It's conjugated completely different, even though it's an aya verb. It is not done that way. So mourir, to die, is written something like that. Je meurs, tu meurs, il, elle meurt. Nous mourons, vous mourrez, il, elle meurt. Now, mourir, if you remember, is part of Dr. Mrs. Van der Trump in passé composé. That means it is conjugated with être as your helping verb. And what is the past participle? It is mort. So we get something like vous êtes mort. Alright, and because accordance will be done, so for instance, elles ont mort with the E over here for being feminine and an S for being pluriel. So you need to keep accordance in mind. Then in future simple as well, it is an exception. So we write je mourrai, tu mourras, with double R, be very careful. So we get il, elle mourra, nous mourrons, vous mourrez, and ils, elles mourront. Now what is the opposite of mourir? To die, it is to be born. That is the verb naître. Now despite being an RE verb, the conjugation in the present tense is a little different. You can say somewhat of an exception. So we get je nais, tu nais. Now here I wrote the I normally, but in the infinitive, there's an accent circonflexe. So we're going to place it only with il and elle. So from nous onwards, you will see that we have double S in all of the conjugations. Okay, so despite again being an RE verb, you will have double S with nous, vous and il est pluriel. Alright, and with il est singulier, you will have a little cap on the I, which is your l'accent circonflexe. So be careful about that. Then coming on to passé composé, again part of Dr. Mrs. Vandertram, just like mourir. So done with être. And what is your past participle? It is ne. That's it, but with an accent on the e. So what do we get? Again, we get something like, if we have L, so L, A, ne, with an extra E. So she is born, she was born. Okay, then again with nous, sommes, ne, again an S for being we, that is plural. So it goes on like that. Then for future sampler, it follows a simple rule, that is for RE verbs, we cut off the E and we're left with the stem where we place the avoir endings. Now here, in every single conjugation, the accent on the I will be there. Okay, because the stem had the accent, so all the conjugations in future sampler will also have it. Next is the verb partir, to leave. So in present tense, it goes like this. Now the conjugation is obviously pretty simple. I haven't written it because it's difficult, but because of how many times it appears in the paper. Okay, so it is important. It's simple but important. Next, in passé composé. Now again, part of Dr. Mrs. Vandertramp, so done with être, and accordance also applies. So you get parti as your past participle. Pretty simple. I verb, you cut off the R, normal rule, and you get parti. So it's done like je suis parti, or ils sont partis, as for the plural, and like that. Then in future sampler, again, simple enough. We don't need to spend much time on this because obviously the conjugations in every single tense is pretty simple. Alright, it's just the fact that it appears quite frequently is why I have put it in a list. Alright, now there's a pretty common mistake I've seen is in future sampler. What happens is that when you're doing it with il est pluriel, I've seen students they put ent instead of ont. Okay, you need to know ent is a present tense thing. Okay, and ont is a future sampler thing. Alright, so don't get confused between them. So do not write this. Alright, this is completely incorrect. You're mixing two tenses up and you'll lose marks for that. Next is prendre, to take. So you get here. Now from here comes the important part. That is here you remove the D. So it is nous prenons or vous prenez. That is ils prennent. Alright. Now prendre is done with avoir in passé composé. So your past participle is an exception, that is pris, took. Okay. So again you get something like j'ai pris, for example, mon petit déjeuner. Now in future sampler it's pretty simple. Eighth one is our verb recevoir, to receive. Now this is the conjugation that most students don't know even in the present tense. So what is it? It is je reçois, tu reçois, again with an accent below the C. Il reçoit. Now with nous the conjugation varies a little, that is nous recevons, vous recevez, ils reçoivent. Again comes back to the old format. So no accent with the nous and vous on the C, you don't have it. Then in passé composé with avoir, your past participle is reçu. Okay, so you get things like j'ai reçu, that is I received, or il a reçu, so he received, and so on. Now in future sampler, we know that the infinitive is your stem. Okay, but here it is not the case because recevoir is an exception. So what is your stem? It is recevoir. So you get things like, that is I will receive, you will receive, he, she will receive, etc, etc. Then for the ninth one, you have savoir, to know. So till here it's obviously really simple. Where I've seen mistakes is nous, vous and il est pluriel. There you have to be a little careful and memorize it. Then passé composé with avoir, it is an exception, so it is su. So you get things like j'ai su, I knew, or tu as su, vous avez su. Then again, in future sample it is an exception, so your stem is saur. So you get things like je saurai, tu sauras, and so forth. Then the 10th one is the verb devoir, to must or to should. So again, this is a complete exception. You have to be really careful with it. In every single tense, it has a unique conjugation. So in present tense, you get je dois, tu dois, il elle doit, nous devons, vous devez, and ils doivent. Again, with nous and vous, it has a different pattern, and then again comes back to this pattern after. Then passé composé, it is again an exception with avoir, so you get d, you. Okay, with the accent on the you. J'ai dû, nous avons dû, etc. Then here, it is an exception future simple, so your stem is devre, D-E-V-R. Now next up is envoyer, which is a var verb. Envoyer, to send, again done a little differently because it is a var verb. It comes under er verbs, but the y changes a bit in the conjugation, which makes it different from the normal er verb pattern. So with je, you have to know that the y becomes I. Now from nous onwards, the y is y again. Okay, so here we had taken the verb envoyer, we cut off the er, okay, we made the y into I, and then we added our endings, that is e, es and e. Now from nous onwards, the y comes back, so we get nous envoyons and vous envoyez. With il pluriel, the I comes back, so only with nous and vous, we have the y. This is done with most var verbs that you'll find, like payer, envoyer, right? Then in passé composé, it is pretty simple. That is, it's an er verb. So we cut off the r and we add an accent on the e. So you get your past participle as envoyé. So things like j'ai envoyé, I sent, or she sent. No accordance because it is being done with avoir. Now again, it becomes a little tricky in future sampler. So your stem is envers. So you'll see there's no r here. Okay, but here in the stem, there's double R. So be very careful about that the entire conjugation future sample, that is I will send, will have double R in it. Then you have faire, to do. Now it's a pretty common one. We've all heard it. It means to do. It's almost everywhere, which means it is also in the paper. Now the thing is, it's a common verb, right? But then why am I noting it down? Because the real problem happens from vous to il pluriel. That is where the conjugation gets fumbled. So here, it is not F-A-I-Z. I have seen it so many times. It is not vous faisiez, it is vous faites. Same way, it is not fais, it is font. F-O-N-T, font. Now this verb is not part of the list, but I'm writing it down. Dire, to say. Here also with vous, it becomes D-I-T-E-S. So it is common with faire. Now in passé composé, it is F-A-I-T, which is your past participle. I have seen people write F-U. That is not a thing, right? There's no such thing as j'ai few. That is wrong completely. Okay, it is j'ai fait. Then again, future sample, it is an exception. So your stem is F-E-R, singular. And that's how your conjugation goes. Now for 13, we'll take a pretty common verb that we've seen everywhere, but again really crucial. That is aller, to go. So in present tense, extremely important because the tense future approach is also done based on aller. So that is something you really need to know. Okay, now mistake happens here, so you need to know it is ils, elles, vont. Fine. Then aller, part of Dr. Mrs. Van Trump in passé composé, done with être, and your past participle is aller. Okay, and accordance applies. So for example, they went becomes elles ont allé, and E for being feminine, S for being pluriel. Then the most important is with future simple, that it is an exception, and your stem is IR. Okay, so you get things like j'irai, tu iras, il, elle ira, nous irons. It's not irons, it is nous irons, vous irez. And last, ils, elles iront. Now the 14th one and 15th one are your pronominal verbs, again extremely important ones. So you have s'asseoir, which is to sit down. So in present tense, you get, here what do you have to be careful about? First thing is that do not forget the pronom, okay? Second thing is that with nous, vous and il, pluriel, the y has to be there, okay? That's how it's written. Now with je, tu and il, you'll find a different conjugation as well, which goes something like A-S-S-I-D-S. Both are correct, okay? I prefer this one. You can also refer to that one if that's what's written in your book. Now, because it is a pronominal verb and it is a rule that all pronominal verbs in passé composé are done with être, okay? So obviously, être, and your past participle is assis. Accordance is done. So here you have to be really careful. You have to pay attention to the pronom, you have to pay attention to the past participle and the accordance that we're going to do. Now I have to be careful. Être is also there. Past participle is also there. The pronoun goes before your helping verb, and apostrophe is there. Why? Because it starts from a vowel. And assis, here E will be there because L is feminine. Now with future simple, you get the conjugation as. I hope this is clear to you. There will be accent on the E. Now for the last pronominal verb, we have se taire, which means to be silent. Alright, now you have to pay attention to the same things that we did in verb number 14, okay, because both are pronominal verbs, they both follow more or less the same rules. So for present tense, you get. Now generally this does not come in passé composé, but just so you know, it's not extremely important. I've never seen it come with passé composé, but in past participle, it becomes tu. Okay, so things like je me suis tu. The probabilities for this one are pretty low. Alright, so it's your choice. You want to memorize it or you don't. Okay, because so far I haven't seen this conjugation in the paper. I'm just giving you for the sake of it because we're doing all three tenses. In future sample, you get something like. Now for this verb, the main conjugation that is important is in present tense. It may come in imperative as well. Otherwise, the probability for these two tenses is pretty low. Passé composé and future simple is unlikely. Now, these were the top 15 conjugations that every 10th grader should know before the board exam. Alright, now what I want for you to do is that we have a bonus verb, that is tenir. I want you to write down the conjugation in the comment box and let me know how many of these 15 did you really know. Thank you.